all right, Nick?
Yeah, I just had some issues.
Hello. This is why I love you, Nick. You're
We're
so funny.
live. How is it? How is
Oh,
everyone?
wait, now we're live. Jesus,
Yeah, we're
God.
live.
We're live now.
Right, sorry, I do apologise, folks. I thought we were still at the backstage. Thank God I wasn't saying anything bad. Well, guys, we are back, and we're back with a new name. We're called To the Grave, and don't you swap me around, Nicky boy. Get that back. We're called To the...
She's
Do you
like
know?
shocked because you did it in the middle of her talking and it caught her off guard.
I did. It was like, oh, fuck,
She's
we're live.
Where do I go? There I am.
I do apologise. Do you know I did this on Friday as well when Frighteners first came back? I didn't realise we were live either. So please excuse me. I'm a bit indicted. But tonight, guys, we're back with a new name, To the Grave and back, because when we broke up, before we broke up for holidays, me and the guys were speaking. And when you look at paranormal and history go together, we thought, well, why not bring paranormal? Hey, Carol, hey, Dave, why not bring paranormal and crime? You know,
Together.
and I thought tonight's subject is a really good one, a really very interesting one. And I've been interested in this one for ages, apart from the Elise Alarm. This is my next top one. And it's the Dyatlov Pass case in Russia, where the hikers, it was 6 hikers.
Oh my god, my bunny rabbit's trying to eat my pants. I was like, what is that?
So
that was the 6 hikers?
Yep,
I thought it was 9. I thought it was 9 of them.
It was, sorry, I do apologise. I'm all fingers and thumbs tonight. I do apologise, folks. Just take me a slap.
There was a lot of hikers the ones that disappeared and they thought it was a Yeti. Is that the same case you're talking about?
That's
yeah,
one,
that is
okay. Yes,
case. Yeah.
I've been very intrigued by that in the last several years too.
I think it's a really interesting one, guys. I think also
and the evidence and what they did find.
Because I mean, it's, you think about it, a 62-year-old adventure mystery now. It's prompted conspiracy theories. You know, it's went from, it could have been military experiments to Yetis, and they're even trying to blame aliens as well.
Yeah.
When you look at the evidence, I mean, these were all experienced hikers. These weren't people that didn't know what they were doing. This was people that knew what they were doing. And when you look at the story itself, it's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, and there was a large group of them too, and they were all physically in really good health and good shape.
I
mean, there was 9 of them.
Sorry, Lois. Go on.
No, on you go, honeybee. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like what Rosie said, and not only were they all physically in great shape, I think a lot of them were, like in their 20s, I think. They were all...
Yeah, and they looked pretty athletic even. Like they were in good shape, like they had been hiking before, and they had been, doing stuff like that before.
Right.
Because there was 7 men and 2 women. And when a search team started out to find these people, it was a few weeks later, the tent was found just barely sticking out the snow. And this is what the interesting thing is, right? And I want you to listen to your guys' theories on this. But the tent was actually cut open from the inside. So what's your thoughts on that, guys? The fact that it was cut for the inside.
There was a survival instinct of someone trying to escape it and run away.
I was going to go with the same thing too. It's just like the way how I saw was they probably knew that they were being attacked. And for most attacks, usually it's cut from the outside. But yeah, like you said, Rosie, it's possibly some type of survival instinct.
An escape tactic or something.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't have time. Either they just didn't have time to open the zipper, or they couldn't get it open, so they had to probably cut their way out from the tent.
To find another location to relocate to maybe safety.
Yeah.
I mean, when they tried to say, first of all, right, the thing that gets me is, right, they said, first of all, it could have been animals because of the bodies. But it's bizarre because one of the bodies they found had radiation. Now, you think about it, there's no radiation in that area.
No, there's no animal that emits radiation to damage a body either.
Well, and also in any type of town that did have, like, some type of, let's say, like a nuclear power plant or something like that, we're talking miles and miles and miles away from any location that could produce radiation. So you're talking basically about the mountains of Russia, which, if people don't know this, Russia is a very sparsely populated country. So it's not very heavily populated as everyone thinks, as huge as it is. So any type of location that had radiation to it, there would just be no way.
Today.
Oh, I heard the sweet voice there. I was like, oh.
3 o'clock is like the busy time here because it's get out of school time,
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, love. It's fine. But, I mean, all 9 of the team members' bodies were scattered around the mountain slopes. Some was a baffling state of undress. Some of their skulls and chests had been smashed open. Ironically, others had eyes missing and one lacking a tongue. Now, I don't think that's animal. There's no way that's animal. Why would the animal just go for the eyes and tongue and leave everything else?
And even if it does go for that, I think honestly, if it was going for the eyes and tongues, there would certainly be a lot more damage to the to that area.
Not a precision cut of the tongue only. They would have had to cut the face open, right?
It's like
the tongue.
Yeah, it's like they were clean cuts, like as if it was
like pulled out and lacerated.
Kind of like pulled out almost. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. I think if it was like a bear or something, that the entire face would be horrifically mutilated beyond recognition. But if it's just clean cuts, that just seems a little bit unusual, because especially in a wooded area like that, it just didn't make sense.
The police investigated this. It was a criminal investigation at one time. But what's ironic is, and you never actually hear police saying this, but they actually blamed their deaths on an unknown natural force. Now, when have you ever heard police blame a murder, what they think is a criminal investigation, on an unknown natural force?
Right. It's kind of unusual for them to come up with that type of idea, because usually most law enforcement agencies don't want to say it's something unknown. They want to get right to the bottom of it.
I mean, scientists are trying to solve this 62-year-old case. I mean, will they ever solve it?
I think that they will. I think that there's no way that they couldn't. Like, there's enough stuff that they have, like substantial evidence or whatever, and like, I've seen several different shows have different theories. Have y'all seen the show that had like the Yeti concentrated theory, and it had showed the photo where they had caught a picture from the camera, and it did look like there's like no way you could deny that it looked like a Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what show you're talking about, Rosie. It was just on. I think it was on the Travel Channel. I think. I just saw that the other day, and they had the photo. And matter of fact, very quickly, I do have that photograph right here. If you guys would like for me to share it to you guys.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm glad that you're doing it, Nick, because know that I
did. You hear any more? Okay, part of that question was I wasn't like stopping with that. Like, there's another show I saw that was like concentrating on a tribe that was there that was violent, that they were in their territory, like a tribe that had been they were afraid of, and they even wrote about it in their journals, that there was some kind of tribe that was there that they had to deal with, or that they had to like butted heads with, being in that area that was native, that lived there.
I just want to say a quick hi to everyone that's joined. Thank you very much for joining us. Hi Jacqueline, hi Carol, hi Robert, hi Kelly. Hi. Do you know it's like one of the ones you're trying to rhyme off of the names, you're like, la la la. Hey Kylie.
I cannot find the Lego book.
What I was like, oh, go ahead.
No, on you go,
You're
love.
still saying hi. I didn't see anything else like photos of the tribe or like the name. I didn't get the name of the tribe unless it was in their journal, because I can't remember exactly what it said. Like if they called it some kind of certain tribe, but like that was the first time I actually even heard in the last 5 years about any mention of an actual violent run-in with the tribe. I might have missed it before, but I hadn't heard anything other than aliens and Bigfoot until recently. I heard about that tribe that they possibly could have had a run-in with.
But then again, what if, right, and I'm going to word this very, very carefully, what if the truth of it is like something like Area 51, right? No the same, but it's a government setup. It's the popular theories, it's a failed military experiment that's went wrong in a government cover-up, which actually sounds a lot better. But then they were trying to say, right, they changed it to, it was an avalanche. Now, you guys know what a damage that avalanche can do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if an avalanche came down, covered them, why would the avalanche then, why would they be missing eyes and missing tongues? Why would one be found with radiation? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean the bodies would be more crushed by the enormous weight of snow from an avalanche than like being ripped apart. There's just again and for again getting those kind of injuries or damage to the human body, that just those if it indeed was an avalanche, I mean, not only would they have been crushed, they would have died of frostbite. They would have froze to death. There's
and if they were buried in that much snow, nothing could have got to them and like ripped their tongues and all that stuff out. You know what I mean? If that was the cause of death, then I don't think anything's going to penetrate all that snow to find them and then pull their tongues out and cut them. That just doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I had to throw out a theory. I think they uncovered something, and I think
sorry,
it was. Well, honey,
I was trying to get the
No,
banner
you
on the bottom of it. That's the one. I'm having some technical issues today.
It's all right. We're all having issues. It's fine, love. We'll swing this one.
Do you think by what you're saying is like a governmental conspiracy type cover up?
Oh God, aye. Oh aye. I think. I don't think they meant to harm them. I think that obviously they've came across something that they really shouldn't have been. Basically, been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think they've tried so hard to do what they did with the bodies to make it look like either it was an avalanche, animals, but it's definitely, it's a really, as I said, it's a really interesting one. And to think it'll be 63 this year, the 1st of February 1959. But aye, guys, it's worth checking out. I mean, that you just think, they were all highly experienced, and obviously, with one key exception, all the students and recent graduates from the institute. There was actually an odd one out. There was a last-minute addition to the group.
Yeah.
Yep. But if you think of the early stages of their trek, one member of the group dropped out due to ill health, and the rest carried on, and they were taking photos of each other, recording diary entries that expressed their excitement about the adventure. One actually wrote, "I wonder what awaits us on the trip," and another one wrote, "What will we encounter?" And it's just, I mean, inside were the hiker's boots. When you look at the tent, clothes, maps, and food. And the side of the tent had been slashed open from the inside, and that's a sign of how desperate they tried to get out. And footmates made it clear the group had left the tent with any shoes. And it was just like, oh my God. But if we look closely at the people involved in their bodies, I mean, there was, I can't pronounce their names, so do apologise, right? I'm just going to call them Yuri. I can only pronounce that because I watched a film called Chernobyl Diaries, and it had the same spelling, so I can
That's the
actually
same as a
pronounce
Yeti,
it.
correct? Isn't it?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
say supposedly it's the Yeti.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Hi Raymond. So both of them, when you look at their bodies, first of all, right, it looked like they'd frozen to death, but they also had burn marks and multiple
I
abrasions.
think I know what he's talking about.
What Carol's saying, or
Reminds me of
Carol.
the film where Mount Climbers found a bunker door.
I don't remember
Aye,
what it's called,
the-
but I know what it is.
Yep,
It
that's
actually
that's
resulted in
basically the same.
cannibalism, right?
I think that's the same film as Carol's talking about to what we're talking about. Because I don't know if you guys have watched the film. If you haven't, really watch it. It's a really interesting one, and it's called the Dyatlov Pass. Now I've got it on my Prime. Don't quote me. I think it's an incident, but I could be wrong. But what I'll do is I'll screenshot and I'll show you guys. But it's a really, and I think that's where my curiosity stemmed from. And I know you don't believe everything that you see in the movies, but I actually went on YouTube and watched a documentary after it about the situation. And I found it really interesting. I really did.
it does sound really interesting. I mean, I didn't even know that there was some kind of film out of it.
I
Aye.
don't think that's the same thing that lady's talking about. I think it's something separate. Like it's
All
something
right.
different.
And
She said it
Rosie,
reminded
actually,
her of it.
I just want to throw this in because I was just looking up with what you were saying, Rosie, about like that there was a tribe or something that may have been involved. I mean, as one of the explanations for this whole entire attack.
Mhm.
They don't have, obviously proof, but one of the explanations was they were attacked by, I guess it's pronounced Manzi or the other local tribesmen. The local tribesmen were known to be peaceful, and there was no track of evidence. That's the problem. The problem is that they were known to be peaceful, and there was no track evidence of anyone approaching the tents. So I think that's what you were referring to earlier, the Manzi.
It was the Mansi. I remember now. I think that sounds familiar. Yeah. But would they have attacked them, or would they have what do you call it? Like, what do you call it when you like ruffle somebody's? Would they not contest somebody? Challenge? Would they have challenged this group if they thought this group was out there? Like, if they were in any way kind of like seen as disrespecting nature or something like that, maybe. Like if they were peaceful, they were probably like a naturalist type of group. Like, would they have been provoked if they had seen this group out there? Like, was the group out there specifically looking for Bigfoot or something? They were, correct?
It says here, I just looked up, to find out more about who the Manzi people are. And of course, obviously, they're still around today. I mean, you could pretty much compare them to basically like Russia's version of Native Americans, or if you want to call them Native Russians. So
are they ones that killed
And that's
I can
usually
remember that guy, that Michael Rock fella. He was killed by a tribe because obviously, but what was ironic about his case as well, sorry going off topic, but what was ironic about his case was he'd been already twice to the island and nothing happened. And then it was on his third visit
was
that
he
they
a
killed him.
missionary?
What, Rosie? You broke up, honey?
Was he a missionary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. He basically wanted, his mission was to basically try and make some sort of contact with them and learn about them and obviously live in their habitat and see what they do for time to time basis. Which is ironic because they accepted them the first. But what they're saying is they think it must have been a case they've what's the word? Mistakenly identified them as someone else and didn't recognise them and killed them.
Or they were in like those kind of tribes, usually they're like a naturalist culture. Like they believe in like nature staying the way that it is. If there is some kind of creature like a Bigfoot, they like to protect that. They like to keep it peace with it, and they like to be at one with it usually. And I'm basing this mostly off of American tribes or cultures, people that I've seen interviews done on, and just like Native Americans and how their beliefs are. Like would they have been provoked to cause some kind of challenge against this group of 9 whatever you want to call them, explorers, scientists, if they thought that they were threatening the environment, the animals, or this Yeti, Yuri, Bigfoot creature?
I think it's some way, and again, this goes back to what you were just saying about the tribes. Is like in this case, like when it comes to the Mansi people, and probably perhaps their version of Yeti, like you said, how you said about you kind of are speaking in a way like with Native American culture. I think it's like this with a lot of different type of indigenous people, like of these particular countries. I'm sure Mansi people had, probably some similar cultures, probably had some of the same beliefs. And so, they're probably very protective or at least respectful of whatever is out in that area. And knowing that these college students that went out, they were exploring, there's always that, term, and you see this, of course, a lot in horror films all the time. These students, you got these kids that want to go out and explore. You gotta say it's kind of like that fear of the foreign, almost saying, well, we should check this area out because it hasn't been explored or whatever case is, or if we're just gonna go camping or whatever. But that's where the problem is, of course, and next thing these 9 kids were killed as a result. So
and I'm not saying the tribe did it. Could the tribe have had the run-in with them that they'd notated in the journal because of something like that, is what I was basically saying.
Yeah.
I mean, no far from where they were lying in the snow and that, it looked like obviously the group's leader and someone else. It looked like both of them had been trying to return to the tent when they died. And then they found obviously the body of one of them he had a fractured skull. And what was ironic about the others was that they were found in a ravine in a shelter. They had attempted to carve out of the snow, and one of them had their skull caved in. One had a deformed neck and was missing his eyebrows. And obviously the oldest hiker, and a young, I'm presuming it's a lady, had crushed chest with multiple broken ribs, and both were missing their eyes, but the woman was missing her tongue. And it's just like, oh, but there's another theory that obviously that 2 members of the now please excuse us tonight because none of us between the 3 can say this word, so I'll try and go with it. 2 members of the Dyatlov group had been focus of speculation, because one of them I'm sure was a veteran of World War II. Furthermore, it's significant a few years earlier, one of them had helped to clean up a radioactive, look at a secret nuclear facility there, which has now been compared to Chernobyl. And according to one theory was that, I can't pronounce their names, was working for the KGB and had joined the Dyatlov to rendezvous with CIA agents up in the mountains while handing over radioactive materials and nuclear secrets. The Russians were actually supposed to take photos of the American agents, and the theory goes that obviously the CIA got wise to what was going on, which led to a fight breaking out and obviously killing all the party. So that was another theory that I'd never ever heard before until now. So this comes back down again, no offense to America, the CIA.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
it's
have
kind of a
some
new
pretty,
theory. Go
huh?
ahead, Rosie. Sorry. Go
They
ahead.
have some pretty highly trained individuals.
Yeah. Now, Robert was asking if these people have not have guns in the wilderness. I don't think they did they? Or
I didn't
No,
see any showing of pictures or like any
No.
evidence, and no mention of them having a gun.
and I think as well, they're climbing mountains, so they've probably not really been thinking of the dangers what could be out there in wildlife. They've just been thinking, we're going for a hike up this mountain. Carol has put, have you seen the footage of the Bigfoot near a reservoir? Am I pronouncing that right? In America?
I think she meant to say reservation. Not that I've seen.
What's
Have
weird is
I-
I almost think that I remember in one of the shows I saw that maybe one of the guys did have a gun with them, but I can't remember for sure.
Oh, guys, here's that. Almost forgot. Here's that picture I was telling about. So this was supposedly said to be one of the last photos that one of the college kids took right before their deaths, and this is the actual photograph right here.
And I think that they put it at location right in front of the tent door.
I
Like they
believe
said
so.
that it was facing out the tent in the location that the tent door would have been facing. Like if you were looking out of the tent, that's where that thing was located.
I don't think that's a Yeti. I think that's it's smaller than a Yeti, because isn't Yetis about 6 foot, 7 foot?
Oh no, they're actually bigger. I heard they're known to get up to at least sometimes 10 or 11 feet tall, sometimes even bigger. I heard they're huge.
I mean, it doesn't look. No, but it does look to me though. When I look at this picture, is I think it actually looks like a man whose skin is
It's like
obvious.
a skin suit almost, or something like you see with costumes and stuff, where he's like covered in a black costume from head to toe.
Okay, I think Nick, you're thinking BDSM again.
I think it depends on the measurements because I'm sure they did some kind of forensic scaling on it to see if the measurement of the distance that it was away and its height and relevance to like the trees around it. I'm sure they probably actually went through that process to say how tall it actually would be. Because it's hard to tell from just looking at the photo. You know what I mean? Like how far away that is and how tall it is.
Yeah, because it could be still. I mean, despite the appearance of it, it does still look pretty far away. So you can't really say we can't say for sure how tall it was. Another possible theory is that if this is indeed a Yeti or a Bigfoot, it could also maybe because of its small size, it could be a juvenile.
Or it could have been one of those tribe member people. Does anyone know what they looked like?
There's pictures of them, but
Like a
nothing
spy?
with that kind of, not with anything like an outfit like that.
Well, like as blurry as it is, how do we know they're wearing an outfit? It almost even kind of looks like a naked person that's wearing very like little clothing, but it's cold as crap outside. You can tell by the snow.
Yeah, there's snow all over the place.
Like, did they wear any kind of specific native like costumery or attire or like something like, I don't know, did they just look like normal people? Like fishermen, or did they look like a tribe?
I could at least say, like, for now, again, I can't say just like how tall that is, but I'm gonna, like you said, Lois. I mean, at least in this photo, it's got to be at least in the 6 to 7 foot range. But then again, it's really hard to say. If there was some way that we can measure photos, like of a figure from a distance, I'm surprised we don't have that technology yet. But it's just really hard to determine how tall it actually could be.
Going back, right, there was in 1990 there was a man called Lev Ivon. I don't even know if I would pronounce his names. I am so shit at pronouncing Russian names right. But it was the man who led the actual initial investigation into the incident. And he published a sensational article claiming that he'd been ordered to censor some of his key findings, in particular the unusual char marks on trees near where the bodies were found. And he had viewed that as a confirmed source of heat ray that had been purposely aimed at the helpless hikers. His article also alleged that floating balls of light and other weird phenomena had been reported over the mountains in February. And he really didn't hold back. He says, based on the evidence gathered, the roles of UFOs in this tragedy was quite obvious. Whether they were UFOs, whether they were experiment, depends on which theory you believe.
Right. See, Eric says to him, he looks like the photo I just showed looks like a man in a snowsuit. Vaughn here says it looks like something without fur, and Eric also said it's got to be at least about 20 feet away. An enlarged little looks like it has dark trousers, light colored tap on it. Carol saying, "Why is it not in color?" Well, you have to remember this was 1959. This was still at a time when color film was still relatively expensive all over the world. So you couldn't really, unless you had the money for it, you couldn't really, color was still unavailable. Most people were still using black and white photography at that time.
I want to debunk the slab avalanche theory, right? And I usually, I try and, see both sides the thingy. I'm going to play devil's advocate, right?
Right.
Right. Say it was an avalanche, right? Then when you look at an avalanche, it's where a compacted block of snow slides down a slope when obviously the underlying layers start to give way. And you could, right? The thinking goes that, once the avalanche had hit, right? If you think when an avalanche hits, right?
Right.
The group slashed their way out of tent in a panic, right? And some of them were severely injured, right? So you could explain some of their injuries, right? And then you think of the ones who escaped with mild cuts and the abrasions, and they helped to others to flee in the danger zone. But for the whole group to perish from intense cold and their injuries, I don't know. I just really don't know, because, alternatively, all 9 hikers may have escaped a crushed tent without serious injuries, which would explain why there was no tracks in the snow, suggesting that people had either been dragged or assisted. Therefore, 2 succumbed to the cold by the tree, 3 froze to death while trying to get back to the tent, and 4 others died by the reservoir. But it just doesn't make sense. I mean,
Eric makes a really good point too. If it was an avalanche, it would have taken down small trees as well. So there would have been evidence of an avalanche. And plus, the avalanche itself would have been piled up by the time it was done.
aye. And there was nothing, there was nothing at all to
I did
suggest
send you a photo in the group chat of the theory that they constructed with like a photo.
Yeah, I just got that. I'm going to share it right now so you guys can see for yourselves. Theory. So this is basically like the way an avalanche would have affected the tent if it was truly indeed one.
I mean, you look at this, right? I don't know why I'm pointing, because you guys won't see me pointing or know what direction I'm pointing in.
I mean, honestly, that does explain why you would cut your way out of a tent.
Yeah,
It
because
could.
they move so fast that your only option is to escape and get out of the way.
Yeah. You
I'm
couldn't
going
move
to
your
try
hand.
and
You
sit
just have to
comfortably
get
so
out.
that I can do this, right? So say this is a hill, right? Right now, you guys will become seasick with me moving this laptop about 10 million times to get comfortable. Right. So say it was I'll just go for the side. Right. Say it was an avalanche, right? And this is the bottom. Right? And the avalanche is coming. Right? Surely then this is just my theory. Surely then if they're going to cut the tent, they would cut the tent. Surely. Why would you cut the tent to back the way? Because you're running into an avalanche, right? So the avalanche is coming down. You're cutting out the back. You're going to meet that avalanche head on. Why not go out the front way and run?
Well, there was like 9 people. Were they all in the same tent? So
I'm
did one
sure.
of them think quicker than the rest of them? Oh shit, there's an avalanche. I'm cutting my way out of this tent. I'm not waiting for those guys to get out of my way. I'm out of here. Like, and they sliced it open and took off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking from huh?
Your adrenaline's punching so hard,
Yeah, I'm
and
thinking
you're
from
in
like
panic
sheer
mode.
survival instinct.
Yeah,
And I think as well, I mean, I
yeah,
think why would someone, you know, you get in a panic when, there's avalanches, tsunamis and tornadoes and things like that. But it doesn't make sense to why they would cut the tent in the direction that the avalanche would be coming in. Surely you would want to run the avalanche the other way instead of being in. So it's got to be something's come in for the front. Avalanches don't come in for the front, they come in for the back. Because
right.
anybody that sets up their tent with sense would face their tent in the way. Because usually how tents are, maybe I'm being wrong, but if I set up a tent and all yous go, hey Marty, hey everyone. Like I said, I don't have to run fast, just faster than you.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking with the like.
I
Yeah, if
love
I'm stuck in
Eric.
this tent and there's 9 people and they're like, let's get out, and they're trying to grab something or anything, I'm just slicing the damn thing and I'm taking off.
Yeah,
Ron was asking what time was the expedition lost? I mean, I know it was the first 2 days of February. I guess he's asking exactly what time.
time wise, I would say I don't own that one.
When did it start?
If it was between 2 days, I would probably assume it must have occurred probably around midnight when this supposed attack occurred.
I mean, I think between the 1st and the 20th, there was no.
Weeks. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Yes, yeah.
When February 20th rolled round and there was still no communication for the hikers, a search party was mounted.
So if they went hiking in January, were they out there for weeks?
No, it was February that they went there. February the 1st.
Okay, because this says in January 1959, a group of 9 young hikers
Oh, maybe they did, sorry.
went
Yeah.
out to Dead Mountain.
Well, when you think about it too, if they were going to go hiking, they obviously would have told somebody saying, "Hey, we're going to be gone for a few weeks. If you don't hear from us, call the police, because
And it does say it took nearly a month for the investigators to find all 9 of the bodies.
Now, I'm just going to put up one other comment that it's just in regards to the photo that we just saw. Vaughn makes another good point here, too, by the way. Said it also looks like the photograph is taken uphill slightly. So, again, it was harder to guess the height. I didn't even think of that, to be honest.
Yeah, or downhill.
That's actually a good
if it
point.
was up or down or a dip.
That's really good thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think if these guys were experienced that they wouldn't put the tent somewhere where it would get plowed by an avalanche.
I mean, there was like a small fire in where the 2 bodies were, but despite temperatures, now you think of the temperatures, it was like minus 13 to minus 22. Both men's bodies were found shoeless and wearing only underwear. Why would you be doing that when you're in minus 13 to 22 degrees?
I mean,
It's 22
The only
degrees.
explanation I would have for that is they were trying to cuddle each other inside the tent to keep each other warm with body heat. Or
No,
they were
this
trying
was
to do
outside the
that,
tent.
or they were trying to do that outside to use
Uh-huh.
body heat to keep each other warm because it was a desperate attempt to try to not get frostbite. I don't know.
See,
especially you're dealing with.
I'm obviously tempted to obviously show pictures, but obviously I don't really want to because we'll end up with a Facebook ban. Because the
Yeah.
last time that I had
Have you
spoke
ever
about,
gone camping in ice and snow?
I've never been camping
Like on a
full stop.
survival camping trip?
I've done camping, but I've not as a
I
survival
have.
technique. I was gonna say I've
I
not
have
as
done
survival technique,
survival
but
camping.
I have camped out in the winter though, like with
It
my
was
dad.
very, very cold outside.
It's cold.
And we had to actually scrape bark off of trees to get dry wood to make a fire with. And we actually had to conjoin all of our sleeping bags to try to stay warm from each other's body heat
Wow.
because it was so cold. And the ground was so cold underneath.
If I may ask, was this in Oklahoma or was this in a different
It was in
area?
Arkansas.
Oh, Arkansas. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we camped, it was up in Michigan.
Oh, I didn't even know that. One of the hikers was brown purple in complexion, and he had grey foam coming from his right cheek and grey liquid coming from his mouth. And this didn't explain why the hands of the two hikers under the cheddar were scraped away and the branches above them were toned down as if the men had tried desperately to seek shelter from something or someone in the tree.
Yeah. Vaughn here says it occurred after an air crash previously.
Oh,
I didn't know anything about that.
See, this is what I love about our shows. What we don't know, people fill in for us, and I love that. Evening, Gary.
Oh, hey Gary, good to see you. Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more on this list. You know, you look at certain cases and things come up that we never even knew about, including this air crash. Because, like I said, I've seen some of the documentaries involved in this whole case with these with this whole 1959 attack, and there was not one time I've ever heard of supposedly there was a plane crash that occurred.
No, that comment was following a comment that you have missed. Apparently, we've missed a comment.
Yeah, -40 to -50 below Midwest. I mean, yeah, it would be hard to try to get some type of body heat going, if that was the case, because you're talking basically about one of the coldest regions in the world. I mean, it is Russia. It gets very cold during the winter, especially nighttime when you're up in the mountains. So your survival instincts would be kicking in immediately, just trying to make it, get through the entire night.
As it's really.
Hey, Jeremy.
Where's Jeremy in? Hey, Jeremy. But I mean, some of their injuries was just horrendous. I mean, it actually was that could have been caused by that was compared to a car crash if there had been in a car crash.
Yeah.
But as it's a really interesting, case. But
yeah, there was the damage to the bodies or like the skull.
Oh, a comment was missed. Okay, I'm sorry, Vaughn.
Ow!
Jeez.
The rabbit bit me.
Your rabbit bit? I didn't even know you had a rabbit, Rosie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeremy. No, Vaughn says no, Nick, there was not an air crash linked with this event. A comment has been missed. Sorry, we're not on the ball tonight, Vaughn. We're not on the ball at all. This is just... I
wonder if this was it. I'm trying to go back to the comments, the one I might have missed. So
there was always extreme circumstances could occur very well, but if there was ever even think.
Is this the one, Vaughn? Just want to make sure on that.
I mean, they said that the bodies died at different times. So they think they've been using the clothes of each other.
I just can't get over. I mean, because again, there's just so many theories. With with how the bodies were when they found them. Like when we were just talking a few minutes ago, I just can't get through to the fact that at least what he said, one or two of the victims had their eyes and their tongue removed. It's just like it just cannot be an animalistic attack. I mean, someone said earlier in the comments, it was almost surgical in a way. That's what I was thinking. I was trying to think of that word.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
Basically, what I
extreme
was getting
survival
at
cannibalism.
extreme
That actually takes me back to that plane crash where
yes, that was
they ate.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier.
in South America in 1972.
But what I found ironic was the sovereign government closed the case as quick as they could and only gave vague causes of death and speculated that the hikers' own incompetency may have caused their demises or that natural disaster was a culprit. I don't believe, because they were highly experienced. So why would they go from being highly experienced to incompetent? Doesn't make
How do we
sense.
know that they were highly experienced?
Right.
Um,
Carol says maybe aliens.
How do we know that they were highly experienced? Like, does it say that they had been on so many expeditions or anything like that? Is there any like factual evidence that they had been on like multiple, like lots of different expeditions and in this kind of terrain? Is there any like anything that shows that, like that, where that would basically like make more sense that it wouldn't be that? Because when I went on that snow camping trip, we actually almost had a really bad accident because none of us had been on anything like that. And we actually were going down an incline and slowly came to a halt, and the car was almost hanging over the ledge.
Wow.
So like you don't really exactly know what to expect in that kind of like environment unless you've like actually went and done it and like had this and this happen, and then you're like, yeah, I know what kind of crap can happen. So then you already know when you get there what kind of crap can happen.
Well, how do you not know too? Here's another idea. How do you not know if, like you said, if they knew where they were going, if they were experienced, or better yet, what if half of these kids were experienced, but the other half wasn't? Because for some, it might have been their first expedition or hiking trip ever.
Yeah, or what if there was a person that claimed or boasted to be experienced, but they really weren't?
Yeah.
I've been in that kind of situation too.
Yeah.
Somebody that talks herself up and makes herself out to be all this stuff, but it's not actually really true. And then you're like, I thought you were experienced. You have like, you're our leader here. No, you lied. So we're all dead now.
Right.
Yeah.
Gary said he camped out right before Christmas at an Invest. -7
oh
degrees.
my God.
Jeez.
Oh no. Yeah. Wow. Do you know what? I've never ever done camping, and it's not because that I don't want to. It's just, know what my biggest fear is, and you're all going to piss yourself laughing, but my biggest fear is snakes. And I can't imagine.
Oh
right?
no.
People
In that
say
cold
that
of
you don't
weather
get
though, if you were in the snow, snakes aren't going to come up in your tent.
Yeah, they don't.
I know,
they're cold
but
blooded.
that's why I don't want to go to places like Australia. I would love to in one hand, but another no, because it's just like I just don't, because I just have this huge, immense fear of snakes, and I have tried so hard to get over my phobia of them, but I just can't. I just don't know what it is, and it's funny because I used to have a fear of the toilet as well, because for snakes to come up through the toilet, and that only happened because I watched Snakes in a Plane, and that was because an ex-boyfriend made me watch Snakes in a Plane after I took him to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning.
Yeah.
Are you saying that maybe they're dismissing that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did all of this?
I think different eaters, but
Interesting. They should make a movie about that.
The Russian Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Lois, I'm just gonna say this now since you said you're afraid of snakes. If there's probably one guest then that well, you might have to deal with snakes if you guys ever have her on Simply Spooky. It's actually an investigator friend of mine who lives in the Chicago area. Her name's Amelia Cotter, and she's written a couple of books. She is an investigator, but she's also kind of done a presentation and has talked about the line between paranormal and snakes, and she owns a few snakes.
Oh no. I think, see if Dan and Viv turn around and say they've got that guest, I'm busy that night. I'm washing my hair. I don't care what I'm doing that night. No. I don't do it.
That's why I'm telling you. Just ahead of time. You get someone by the name of Amelia Cotter, prepare for snakes because she has a few of them.
Oh no. Do you know what's ironic about it is I've never actually ever encountered one, and I've never ever been attacked by one. This started when I watched Neighbours. This started when I seen a snake attack in Neighbours, and it's never left me.
Wow.
And
That's mine right there, Vaughn. That's the same with me. Spiders. And I've actually encountered spiders on an investigation one time, and I walked through this really big spider web out in the woods, and there was this really big spider in it, and I was like, I'm out of here. Demons, I'm cool with. Spiders, no way.
I love
spiders. Do you know what? I can spiders don't bother me. I can watch them quite happily running about my house, and I don't bother my arse. I don't care. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I've been doing when I've done investigations. I know this is totally off topic, but this is what always happens in these shows. We go south instead of north.
It happens all the time.
They'll get used to it. So when I've been in investigation, I was in this castle investigating, and they have how you describe it? It's like a cellar type thing. And before I went down, the guy said to me, "Beware," he says, "there's spiders everywhere down there." Oh, literally. And I went down, and I was fine, totally fine. But my pal, he has got a massive phobia of spiders, and I told him it was alright, he could come down. But he didn't believe me because he put his head down first and he seen them.
I'm sorry, Eric, but that just the way how you said this comment just doesn't sound right. It says I'll touch it.
Oh God.
I mean, I know what he's saying, but that just didn't sound right.
Mr. Mooley. In last week's show, was it last week's show?
No, we didn't do it last week.
It was me and Viv, and it went, don't ask me how we got on. We're talking about road ghosts, and my God, the subject went from sex toys to sex robots to it was mental, honestly, and it just proves you can't have a show with me and Viv together. Too much hilarity. I'm prime example for it. Do you know I could never ever say that word? I used to confuse arachnophobia and the fear of going outside. FYI, if you wave fire near snakes, they move away from you. I wouldn't be staying too long to even see one. If I see one, I'll give you a laugh, right? There's a shop in Ayr, which is about 20 minutes away from me, driving. And in a shop, it's called the Lost World, and it's basically a reptile shop, right? And my friend's got a lizard. He's got a gecko, and he asked me to come to the shop with him, right? Now I tried putting on my big girl's pants and saying, "Yes, I can do this." Right? So I got to the door and I said to myself, "Right, Louise, let's do it. Just don't look at anything. Just look straight." And I said, "Right." So I got my big girl's pants on. Right, let's go. Strolled in. I turned 2 steps in. I turned to my right. I seen the snake and it bounced off the glass and I went fucking nuts. And I ran out of the shop screaming. No, the thing,
I was
it's
reading
just,
Juan's
I
comment.
can't. Oh,
Oh, Vaughn's comment right here.
Yeah.
spiders don't run, they come at you with knee protectors.
Yeah.
No way, snakes and spiders, I have a Fulberry both.
I love spiders, to be honest. Oh, wait. Oh, Vaughn. Jeez. I just love how people are like confessing all their phobias. Well,
I
all
love
creatures
Oakley's.
except
Well, I
wasps, but I don't
like
like.
Aye.
them.
Okay, I will.
We've turned into pet world. But do you know what? I would never. I'm a big animal lover. I really am a big animal lover. And as much as I hate snakes, I wouldn't want to see them harmed. It's ironic.
You know, I can kind of tell you this, Lois. I mean, that case was again this person I was talking about, Amelia Cotter, when she brought her snakes at one point. She brought them actually to one of our ghost cons, and
Oh no.
people were allowed to hold them. You know, like I was one of them, but after the her presentation was done, one of the snakes, it was one of the larger snakes, actually got tangled up in one of the chairs. It was it's one of those chairs where they have that little arch bar on top of it. You know what I'm talking? You guys know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
It wrapped itself around the chair, and they didn't want to untangle and pull it because that would hurt the snake itself. So everybody was getting worried that the snake was going to be hurt because they couldn't pull it off of the chair. It was completely wrapped
Oh
up.
my god.
So they had to like basically untangle it carefully.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Vaughn has got a question for you,
Oh.
Nick. What makes you love spiders? Genuinely interested?
I think it was just I always associate them with the horror genre, that kind of stuff. Hearing the stories about them. So, but I will say for Vaughn also that while I like spiders, I am with Vaughn on this. I don't like wasps.
Oh god.
Yeah, because they sting you and it hurts. Hey,
And they sting repeatedly. They don't.
I like your hat in their photo.
Oh.
They don't like. And unlike bees, wasps they repeatedly sting. So.
But I've enjoyed my first show back, apart from no knowing when we were live. I'll make sure next time I check above.
That was just such like. I hated when StreamYard was acting that way. Because at first when I was putting the countdown on, at first it said it didn't say it was live, so I was going to stop the countdown and click on go live, and that's when it automatically went on.
Thank God I wasn't declaring my undying love, because everybody would have been watching the 90-minute Nick.
I hate sometimes when StreamYard doesn't go the way it goes.
You're right, Rosie Posey.
Yeah, I just had another dog barking really loud, and I was like, man, I hope they can't hear that.
We heard a little bit of it, but it wasn't too loud.
Oh, okay, it's fine. Dogs, cats, everything's allowed.
When I put the headphones in, it makes this weird like reverb or echo, like where I can't really like when I talk, it sounds like I'm in a fishbowl. So I don't have the headphones in because they're on, but they're not plugged in because of that.
I just want to make just before we get off here, there's one more theory I just thought of. Just kind of goes back to what we were talking. It's a very, very unlikely case, and considering that they've thrown the Yeti into this case, this is kind of more in the cryptozoological field once again. How do we also not know, because Vaughn mentioned about cannibalism, how we also not know this could be some type of case involving a Wendigo, because it does involve an entity that, as some of the attacks go, they do sometimes look surgical in a way. Mm-hmm. So how do we not know it could have been or
and the photo kind of made me think of that, actually, like if it wasn't a Bigfoot,
or at the very most, even if it's not a Wendigo, what if Vaughn mentioned about cannibalism? It could have also been that condition called Wendigo psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
Which
is that a cannibal?
It's I was gonna say I'll explain it, because I'm sure not everybody knows exactly what that is.
I'm
we know the Wendigo. Yeah, the Wendigo itself, we've heard of obviously through the northern Native American tribes, but there actually is a condition that is called that. So, Wendigo psychosis could be described as a very extreme form of cabin fever. Typically, what happens in a Wendigo psychosis is that someone is trapped or isolated with a group of people for very, very long periods of time.
Mhm.
You know, they may have plenty of food, water, nourishment, supply, survival stuff to eat, drink, and survive on. And what happens is, as time goes on, that person eventually goes into the belief that they're going to turn into a monster and attack and cannibalize the people around them. So it can become a very, very dangerous delusion. You can think of the Wendigo psychosis as kind of like a form of compulsion. Like once they get a taste of the human flesh and blood, they're always going to want to eat it. They're always going to want more, and they'll never get enough. So in a way, this could be seen as something similar to such as drug addiction. So
It almost sounds like vampirism too.
it's very much like vampirism because you are consuming both the human body and blood to survive on. I mean, I'm not saying, because there are other cases like you brought up about the rugby team that crashed into the Andes Mountains back in 1972. I don't consider that, even though cannibalism was involved, or if you look at the Donner Party of the 1840s, that too involved cannibalism. I don't consider those, cases of Wendigo psychosis because those people ate cannibalism, committed to cannibalism because they felt like they didn't have a choice. They were doing everything they possibly could to survive, and they only went after those that already died. Wendigo psychosis, on the other hand, is people who not only cannot think once, it's like they just can't resist the thought, and sometimes that does involve murdering people. So,
So can I just make sense of this in my head? Sorry, Nick, to interrupt you.
yeah, no, it's
Would
fine.
that would that be like, I know no many folk like this program and it's got mixed reviews, but going back to 28 Days Haunted, right? When
Yeah.
Brandy in Germany, I can't see his name. Is it Germany? The demonologist, right? And they were, and we're going to talk about this down the line, guys, at some point because it's a really interesting case, and I didn't think much to it until I watched 28 Days Later. So just to put it in my mind, right? What they discovered in 28 Days Later is they went to, I think it was at it's now a sweetie place or a cafe, I don't know what it is, over in America. But what they discovered on this location was that the guy that killed all his family was complaining of headaches and was writing notes saying trouble can cause. And when, obviously, I can't remember what day number it was that they were on in, these two that was in, but the guy who was a demonologist had started to show the same symptoms as what the guy was getting. And when he was taken to hospital, because I think they thought he was having a heart attack or something, but they couldn't find a reasoning why he was. Is that the sort of thing that you're talking about, Nick?
It could be. It's kind of hard to say. I do remember seeing that. So funny enough, I think his name was I think you said too. His name was Jeremy too. We just recently saw him about it. He was at I saw him in person about a year or so ago. No, about a year ago at one of the Paracons.
Wait a minute, I'll find his name while you're talking, Nick.
Yeah, I know he's from Louisiana. I think Jeremy, whatever his last name is. He didn't really talk about that when we had this was months before 28 Days Haunted was released. So he didn't really talk too much about it. Man, I should have talked to him a little bit more when we were chatting with him at the con. But
is it? I think it's Jeremy that his name is, but it's a different way for the way that Jeremy spells his. Leonard.
Yeah, it's different.
His second name's Leonard.
Yeah, I don't. But as far as the headaches go, I mean, I'm not saying at all that that would be like a sign of Wendigo psychosis, because obviously there's a lot of differences to it. And actually, I just want to get to some of the comments here. Eric says, "Yeah, it could have been some kind of psychosis." Yes, it's very dangerous, Linda. Um, yeah, I think there might even be a Wikipedia page about, the thing about what makes, so cannibalism seems not the right word when it comes into extreme survival. That's what I mean. Is like there are certain differences when it comes to cannibalism,
And
because
it's
like,
on you
sorry,
go. No, it's on you go, honey.
see, in the case with these victims, I mean, even if this was supposedly like a Wendigo case, I mean, I think a lot of cryptozoologists would even say, if this is the case, like for something like this, is that I think the Algonquin tales of the Wendigo certainly have more to do with mental health than it does with cannibalism. So, um, and Eric also points out they resort to killing first instead of finding a different way. I think that's where you have that case of Wendigo psychosis. If you're in an environment where the chances of survival are very slim and you don't have anything else to eat or drink or survive on, you sometimes have no choice but to do the unthinkable. I mean, it's whoever, I don't even know if any of the surviving rugby team members from that crash from 72 are still alive today, but if they are, well over 50 years later, they probably would tell you they were definitely not proud of making such a decision. So
there was a thing that I seen. It was talking about disturbing stories behind photos, and there's a guy from World War II that looks like he's smiling, but he's no. It's a shell shock reaction.
right, okay, I think I know what that is.
That's the way that it was a condition among combat soldiers.
Yeah.
But like military medicine was gaining a better grasp and understanding. Um, in previous wars, it's been known as old sergeant's disease, shell shock, or nosley. I can't say it. Nostalgic, but it's like where they're smiling, but they're not smiling. If that makes sense.
Like they're smiling, but they're not consciously giving a happy smile.
It's like there is that term sometimes, kind of like, not exactly, but this is the closest I can point out to. It's kind of like a nervous smirk, where basically you're like nervous or scared or petrified, but you get this kind of grin. And it looks like to everybody else you're smiling, but in reality you're not. That's just how your reaction.
I found the photo, right, because this was the photo that they referred to as this. I'm going to send it to you, Nick, right, because you are quite good with this. Or I can
Yes, it is, Bev.
Yes, it is, Beth.
Also, if you went to like a mental health care facility or like a I don't want to call it. I was going to say mental health care facility. I think that covers it and makes everybody understand that you could see people that are actually that have some kind of psychological brain damage that would be just smiling like, and they're staring like out a window because they're vacant. But it's almost like their muscles naturally rested in that position, but they're not really like smiling because they're happy. Does that make sense? Like they're kind of checked out.
It does make sense in a way.
I think I'm going to surprise myself. You just keep talking and I'll try and work this one out. I want to surprise myself here.
A lot of things happen when you're scared. People have been known to laugh.
Yeah, as a nervous survival like mechanism.
But yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there as an additional possibility in the case with with the sorry, I'm sorry. It's already been a long day for me today. With those college students' deaths, I'm really surprised not too many others really have pointed out that theory. So I just threw out
The
another
Wendigo
one for it.
psychosis.
The Wendigo psychosis, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to really say, for example, too, again, this is more in the paranormal aspect to really determine which exactly is Wendigo psychosis or like an actual Wendigo case, because it kind of starts out both the same way. So, but
Me too.
you never know though. Then again, even if there was cannibalism involved, wouldn't at least one of the students would still be alive as a result? Because one of them would have still been on his or her feet, and plus one of those bodies would have not been mutilated.
I think so. Nick, I think I'm going to have to send this to you, honey, because I'm trying to find it. I can't find it.
That's totally fine. I have my
Right.
Facebook open already, so whatever you need to send, I'll see it immediately.
Do you know what? I was trying to surprise myself there, but my computer's like, no.
Hey Kelly, welcome back.
Hey, honey.
Yeah, you're right, Eric.
Because I love
Yeah, I always like to go, hey, is it psychological? Is it scientific? Is it paranormal or unexplainable? Like, you got to go down those other avenues.
Right. Yeah, here is okay. Let's see.
Right.
I just looked it up about like when the case with Wendigo psychosis. I'm really surprised. Again, I'm really surprised they never had thrown that event into as a possible case. Okay, I just got your link, Lois. So let's see. Give me 1 second here.
You know what that also reminds me of, Nick? The new Evil Dead movie, not the one that's not out yet, but the new Evil Dead 1 movie that was released several years ago.
Yeah, the 2013 one.
And they all went out to get that girl off of heroin, but then they opened that book of the dead and they let out that demon or whatever, and then they all started acting weird and like they had those creepy smiles.
Yeah,
so this is the picture.
That's a creepy picture, I have to admit, Lois. But here is the.
You don't want to look at it.
Here's the picture. Yeah.
Sure, you're gonna show it.
Like this nervous grin.
I seen this on disturbing backstories of pictures, and what this picture is, I'll tell you a bit about it, guys. When I first looked at it, I thought it was a guy smiling, but it's not. It's a shell-shocked soldier from World War II.
Yeah.
I can't help but get over his eyes.
I know, that's what I'm looking at. I was like, his eyes. What's it? I can't see them very well because they're so tiny, but like, I would want to zero in and like magnify and look at that.
I'll tell you what, 2 seconds and then I'll show you.
It's like
that also, I feel like would actually even more reflect on being shell shocked.
I was gonna say, I mean, they look almost like a cat's eyes, almost.
Yeah.
Right, 2 seconds, guys.
Wow.
This is the picture zoomed in my phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me just go back to. I'm just gonna show this.
Oh wow.
Linda, holy cow! There's a novel right here. Now, Linda, just put down the term of what a Wendigo psychosis is.
Jeez, oh Linda, you're trying to get us showing up.
Covering Rosie, poor Rosie. Severe culture balance syndrome occurring among northern Algonquin Indians living in Canada and the northeastern United States. The syndrome is characterized by delusions of becoming possessed by a flesh-eating monster, the Wendigo, and is manifested in symptoms including depression, violence, a compulsive desire for human flesh, and sometimes actual cannibalism. The psychosis is also known by various. Okay, it doesn't continue, but yep, that's exactly how I just described it in a simple matter.
I'm laughing at Joanne. She says, "Oh yeah, blame us, though."
Oh, I didn't even see Joanne was on.
But
good to see Joanne. Well, hey, it's not.
Electric shock treatment. He kind of did look like that, sort of.
Joanne, don't worry. I mean, you saw it. It wasn't just Canada. It was also the northern United States.
It's like bloody Canadians again. But guys, it's been a great show, and thank you so much for everybody that's shown up tonight. And I just want to say thanks very much to these guys. You know, Nick's my right hand man, Rosie's my left hand woman. You know, and I don't know where I would be without these two guys. But thank you so much, guys. Next week we will talk about Rosie. Pick a subject.
And it needs to be either paranormal or criminal crime.
Well, you know this show. We start off with a title, but we don't always stay on track, so it doesn't necessarily just throw a subject.
How about similarities of Ed Gein versus Pennywise the Clown?
Wow.
That is a good one. You
No,
heard
I
the
just-
lady, guys. Next week we're talking about similarities between Ed Gein and Pennywise, which is quite a strange one, but it'll be good.
I just want to say quickly, just too, before we get off here, is what we talked about tonight was really interesting, and eventually I'm probably going to do a slideshow on this. So I would at some point like to go back, talking about this, but we do like you originally had the idea, Lois, of doing a crossover between Nick Files and this show. So some point I would like to go back, because by then we may have more stuff to talk about this whole case.
Definitely, and I think really what I would love for these shows to end up is doing our wee own mini investigations and coming up with our own theories behind these sort of cases. And I've just, do you know what? I've so many ideas in my head, but I just don't know how to all get them out at once.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, guys. We love you all. I'll leave Nick to give you some wise words.
Honestly, I mean, I don't really have much else to say other than that I'll be back on just a few hours from now on Supernatural Talk. So if you guys want to tune in then, it will be
Bye,
7 o'clock
Joanne.
Central
Bye,
Time.
everyone.
So, but until then, you guys have a great one, and I guess I'll see some of you guys tonight. But if not, we'll see you guys next week.
See you later, guys.
Take care,
Have a good
everyone.
week and a good weekend.
Night. Bye.